let's take a look at the Ukraine, the Ukrainian involvement or possibly non-involvement in the attacks against the Nord Stream pipeline.
Ukraine has denied any involvement in an attack last September on the Nord Stream pipelines, which were built to carry Russian gas to Europe.
I'll be back.
This map shows where they run along the seabed from Russia across the Baltic. The damage was discovered near the Danish island of Bornholm. It's also relatively close to the Russian territory of Kaliningrad. The damage was first noticed when huge amounts of gas bubbled to the surface. When cameras were sent down to film what had happened, this is what they found. Several experts said it appeared the pipes had been damaged by an external explosion. It's not yet been established who was responsible or why, but a report in the New York Times newspaper has quoted anonymous US security officials suggesting a pro-Ukrainian group was to blame. Well, Ukraine's Defence Minister Oleksiy Reznikov commented on the Nord Stream allegations, and this is what he had to say.
For me, it's a little bit strange story because this story is nothing with us, and I think that investigation of official authorities will describe every details, because it's like a compliment for our special forces, but this is not our activity.
Well, that's the official Ukrainian government position. A short time ago, Frank Gardner, our security correspondent, came into the studio and he explained to me the credibility of these allegations.
I think we've got to be careful to avoid speculation because I sound like a politician here, but the investigation is still ongoing. I'm not trying to kick it in the long grass, but obviously this is immensely sensitive because the report that has come out citing unnamed US intelligence officials, also backed up by a report.
I'm sorry, but I was there 5 months ago when these motherfuckers were in unison, collectively, as though they were one voice, stating unconditionally that this was definitely Russia that did it to itself. Okay? I was there. And I talked about how silly that seems at face value. Now, was Ukraine blamed directly? Why are they denying it as if they were? I thought they said pro-Ukrainian group. Yeah, I know. So, it was a ridiculous thing. Hear you last year on it.
Of Russian gas to then the rest of Europe, and this has really been criticised for more than a decade, really, for one of the reasons why Europe is so over-reliant on Russian gas. So they're incredibly controversial infrastructure, and of course at this particular time when energy is a key part of the war in Ukraine right now, this is why this, what would usually be seen as simply a technical fault, is creating such a discussion here. What is exactly behind these gas?
I mean, this is what people got. This is what got people in a tizzy on social media.
First question first. If Russia invades,
I'm going to show you something. Hold on.
That means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again.
Dark Brandon, he did it.
Then there will be no.
Bro, I'm pretty surprised because your take is super short-sighted, but that's okay. European gas isn't your expertise. The point is so Russia can pretend to come to the table with genuine intentions and blame the infrastructure as the culprit now. Come on, bro. It's right in front of you, for fuck's sake. Brother, you can't do detonations on a fucking pipeline and then act like it happened as a consequence of the crippling infrastructure when, like, it's very obvious if an explosion occurred. You understand that, like, there are engineers who can dive down there and, like, take a look. There are people who analyze seismic data, as we talked about already, that will say, well, this is consistent with, like, a singular detonation. So, it's kind of difficult to hide a bombing attempt. It's my thing is, like, there's a simple way of looking at a lot of these situations, right? There's a very simple way of looking at these situations, and it's like, who has the most to gain here? It, like, quite literally doesn't make fucking sense for Russia to false flag themselves in this way, because it's like their main thing, their main source of revenue, you know? Hold on. Chicken is ready. Hold on. But many people will say neither was invading Russia. True. But at least there was like something to gain. It was a major fuck up and idiotic, but there was something to gain out of it. I can't see what the gain angle is here. Invading Ukraine, while a gigantic misstep because they were going to fucking, experience all the things that they're experiencing now. And anyone with a fucking brain cell could have seen that. What is the gain here? What could it be? And I'm sincerely asking. There is a gain of like thinking, overextending, thinking that you're capable of invading Ukraine while you're clearly not, and overextending. Best guess, Russia is purposely escalating, demonstrating a capacity they can blow up a pipeline that could potentially be used again in a much more significant way. Wait, what? Right now, Nord Stream 1 wasn't moving much gas, so the economic impact on all parties is fairly minimal. Wait, what? To flex? And the show that they... What?
With regard to...
By the way, half this stuff was covered by Seymour Hersh as well, which is why I was like, I don't really care to watch... or read the Seymour Hersh article. But pretty much every single thing that I said about this pipeline 5 months ago, okay, you can now see in this article of the New York Times 5 months later. At the time, of course, they were all saying...
First on CNN, sources telling us that European security officials observed Russian Navy ships earlier this week in the vicinity of those leaks in the Nord Stream pipelines that were likely caused by underwater explosions. With more now on this, we have CNN reporter Katie Bo-Lillis.
That's so interesting that they were like very clearly in unison, collectively, as though they were one mouth saying Russia hit themselves, Russia hit themselves. Okay? And now the New York Times is using the exact same justifications that I put forward as to why this wouldn't be Russia. Some initial U.S. and European speculation centered on possible Russian culpability. I wonder what the New York Times' position was on the matter. Especially given its prowess in undersea operations, though it is unclear what motivation the Kremlin would have in sabotaging the pipelines, given that they have been an important source of revenue and a means for Moscow to exert influence over Europe. One estimate put the cost of repairing the pipeline starting about $500 million. U.S. officials say that they have not found any evidence of involvement by the Russian government in the attack. Well, your position was based on intuition, not intelligence. That the major difference between your statement and the New York Times article? You mean intelligence like... You mean U.S. intelligence. Like you're talking about what the State Department was putting out there. Sabotage pipelines and a mystery. Who did it? Was it Russia? All available information indicates that those leaks are a deliberate act. Apparent sabotage. American officials said the explosive gas from the broken pipes made it too dangerous to get close to the breach. Poland and Ukraine openly blamed Russia, which pointed a finger at the United States, and both Moscow and Washington issued indignant denials. U.S. officials and outside experts also speculated over whether Ukraine or one of the Baltic states, which have long opposed the pipelines, might have had an interest in seeing them disabled. But others noted that one of the two Nord Stream 2 pipelines was undamaged, leaving Mr. Putin the possibility of using it as leverage if the winter turns particularly cold. If that was the usage, why did they just blow up the pipeline? A ton of people who are dick riding the CIA State Department didn't see this as They didn't see that this wasn't from Russia. In fact, they all screamed at the time that it was Russia, but a simple materials analysis, something that actual leftists have, was clear that this attack was from U.S. or other proxies. Yes. Yeah, by the way, this does indicate that they haven't been able to find anything linking Russia to the bombing, because if they had, then that would be the big finding. Exactly. So I guess the thinking now is that the perpetrators were just some guys who like Ukraine and had a boat, diving gear, training, and about 1,000 pounds of military-grade explosives. Seem very simple and believable, which is insane. Like, how do they not do a better job of like coming up with a narrative that ties it back to Russia somehow? That's crazy. Like, it's wild that they don't think that they even need to do this. Why aren't there people going after John Brennan and CNN being wrong? Because that's mainstream media. No one gives a fuck when mainstream media gets things that pertain to American exceptionalism and America's imperialist conquests overseas, or America reinforcing its dominant hegemonic superpower status as a bad thing. They'll go after CNN if they say something about vaccines or something related to like domestic issues, okay? That is divided on political lines. But American imperialism and American exceptionalism is not divided on political lines. That is a united front, which is precisely why when CNN says whatever the fuck they want to say, and very deliberately, I think, because the narrative was so silly to put together in this way, that when they very deliberately omit key details or just fucking speculate endlessly about something that is like very unlikely, which even at the time I said, look, it could be the case. Russia has done dumb shit, but it doesn't seem likely, because who stands to benefit? It's not Russia that stands to benefit. Like at the top of the hour, you stand to benefit when you don't see the 3-minute ad break. How do you avoid the 3-minute ad break at the top of the hour? By subscribing, of course, for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. By connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, you get 1 free Prime subscription a month. Use it on your favorite broadcaster. Hopefully that's me. You can also get gifted a sub. BDP, thank you for the 5 gifted subs, allowing 5 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Dynamic Jab 13, thank you for the 5 gifted subs, allowing 5 people to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour.
Do you think Russia's behind the sabotage of the pipelines?
Well, I think all the signs point to some type of sabotage. These pipelines are only in about 200 feet or so of water, and Russia does have an undersea capability that would easily lay explosive devices by those pipelines. And I do think it's a signal to Europe that Russia can reach beyond Ukraine's borders. So who knows what he might be planning next? But I think this is clearly an act of sabotage of some sort. And Russia is certainly the most likely suspect.
Russia is the most likely suspect, says John Brennan.
Why blow up their own pipelines if they can obviously just cut off the gas flowing from them?
Well, there's been no gas flowing through those pipelines, although there's some gas that's been pent up in them. That's why we've had the methane release. But there's also pipelines that are going into Europe that are bringing gas from Norway. And so it won't take much if Russia decides to go after the other pipelines that are bringing gas in.
Yeah, they blew up theirs first to basically what? State that they can blow up the competition? Why didn't they just blow up the competition? If they have such covert diving and explosive capabilities, why didn't they just blow up the Norwegian pipelines? He just ignored the question because he knows better. He's not that big of a fucking idiot. But unfortunately, the people that watch this kind of news coverage and repeat those things that they hear from this kind of news coverage in my chat are that kind of fucking idiot. Because you need to exercise a little bit of critical thinking. You always have to look for biases in every fucking facet of news media. Okay? Every channel, no matter what, has their own biases. Does that suit your understanding of the world? Do you agree with that? Democracy, now I'm certain, has some biases as well, right? But I agree with those. I openly tell you what my biases are.
Can't be.
Seymour Hersh's live reaction to the New York Times article, that's pretty funny. Has been mildly amusing watching NATO's OSINT cutouts flail around like headless chickens ever since they got rat-fucked by their masters over the Nord Stream bombings. The Nord Stream pipeline bombing was a major terrorist attack in the heart of Europe. If it had been blown up by Russia, Bellingcat would have launched a huge investigation. When Bellingcat don't look, it's a strong signal that it was a US, UK, NATO, or allied operation. I mean, that's one indication, but that's not the major indication. The major indication is more simple than that. Who stands to benefit? If you want to look for secondary reasons, then you look at, if there was any indication that this was Russia, do you think the mainstream media would have let that go? Of course not. I know Bellingcat is an extension of Western intelligence. I know.
What?
Here is Seymour Hersh's reaction to the pro-Ukrainian group sabotage pipelines. Guys, remember, pro-Ukrainian group, a bunch of random guys, could be anybody. You know what I mean? Could be Americans. I mean, they're saying that there's no American or British nationals involved in this. Not directly, at least.
What? That can't be true. They can't be that stupid. Are they that stupid? What do I care? I'm going to go look at the New York Times now. Oh, my God. Intelligence suggests Ukrainian... Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Okay. No, I haven't seen it. No, I can't comment on that stuff. What do I know? I've written a couple of other things about it. I'm going to write something next week again about it. And that's the way I do it.
Matt and Glenn apparently unfamiliar with the lack of open source information at the bottom of the sea. Their incuriosity is indeed conspicuous and telling. Yeah, this is a funny take. This is the opposite take of what we just read. Okay? Does Russia benefit from people thinking it was the US and allies did it? Look. This is fucking stupid considering that OSINT doesn't just look at the bottom of the sea, because OSINT and Bellingcat have literally done direct work when it comes to literally nuclear bases and shit in American allies. Okay? They're making fun. They're making fun of Glenn Greenwald, talking about there's no open source in the bottom of the sea, when in fact OSINT also pertains to things above the sea, like ships, flying vessels, things that they track around that vicinity. So it's not like they had no tools or no methods to investigate the bottom of the fucking sea. If there's a will, there's a way. OSINT always does have additional resources, or more importantly, Bellingcat has additional resources to investigate matters because they do have some State Department backing. If Matt and Glenn are that interested, our Discord community is digging into things. I'm sure their extensive experience as journalists will come in handy. This is what I'm supposed to link to. Apologies to Matt and Glenn. I had too much time on a train today, so I've made the evidence that Matt and Glenn demand we find. Okay, that's silly. Can't say the R word, by the way. Wait, what? Russia? OSINT isn't a group, it's a method of research. Yes, open source information. Open source intelligence, not information. Sorry. Did I say information? It's probably a good thing that our government is lying to us about Ukraine. Why worry? I agree. Why do these leaks surface now? What's your opinion? Oh, I know what my opinion is. I've said my opinion. I think it's partially because it was such a fucking ridiculous narrative that they created, thinking that it would go away. And then Seymour Hersh's article came out, and he is still a very well-respected journalist because of all of the work that he had done. And they haven't like endlessly buried Seymour Hersh by being like, he's an Assad apologist or whatever the fuck. So that certainly got people a little bit more interested in it. And then they had to come up with a different narrative that wasn't like America did this, but maybe a Ukrainian ally did this. And the best thing that they came up with was like some random guys did it with military grade explosives and, you know, incredible diving experience. So I do think that Seymour Hersh's article did play a role in you know, people demanding answers, because journalists were asking, what's his face, the State Department guy, Ned Price, over and over again. But it is wild that like their take basically, because so when Seymour Hersh wrote the article, Russia started using that article at the UN Security Council to say, we demand a third-party, unbiased, independent investigation conducted into the pipelines, which like Russia has, regardless of all the fucking war crimes that they're currently committing, every right and responsibility to do so. China backed Russia in the UN Security Council to demand an independent investigation. Do you want to know who said no to the independent investigation? Do you want to know who said no to the independent? Who would say, oh, let's not figure out who blew up the pipelines actually? Because that's a weird fucking thing to say, right? The United States of America, England, and France. That's who. They literally objected to the independent investigation. I mean, that's crazy. But yeah, so what ended up happening is Seymour Hersh's article came out. When that article came out, Russia used that article to demand answers at the UN Security Council. People were asking Ned Price questions as well about America's involvement using the article itself. So they had to come up with a counter narrative, and the counter narrative they came up with is like pretty fucking weak, in my opinion. Like, goddamn, dude, you couldn't fucking like even a low level like, you know, gun trace task force or whatever still has the capacity to just like fucking drop a weapon on the scene of the crime and be like, ooh, we found a gun. And like the CIA can't do that? That's crazy. Like, how? How are you unable to just like even fucking make fake? They've fallen off, dude. We used to be a proud nation. We used to be a nation that lied about our enemies or countries that we want to invade having weapons of mass destruction. We would go up at the UN meetings and dead ass straight up say it with a straight face, knowing full well that it was untrue. Look where we're at now. America has fallen the fuck off, folks. Are they them CIA with imposter syndrome is not hitting as hard as it used to? Look at that. They went woke and went broke, folks. It's very clear. Now, of course, it doesn't matter. Yeah, the CIA is quiet quitting, dude. Remember, they're not even quiet quitting. They're loudly quitting with the Havana Syndrome shit. You remember Havana Syndrome? Another manufactured propaganda vehicle that like a lot of you sucked on hook, line, and sinker. I feel like I have to like unwind you after you watch a lot of MSNBC and read the New York Times every single time a new thing comes out like this. Remember Havana syndrome, dude? People were mad at me about that too. Havana syndrome, not caused by energy weapon or foreign adversary, intelligence review finds. What is this? Reminder that Hasanabi confirmed. I was running to the bathroom over and over again. I just kept pooping. Okay, I could not stop. Or maybe it was the Havana syndrome. Triple react time. Anyway, let's get back to this.
Reports in the German media are indicating that this boat has been found, this yacht that set off from Rostock in northern Germany on the Baltic coast, and was it was crewed, they think, by Ukrainians, but they're not sure. Yeah. Now, if it turns out to be the work of a pro-Ukrainian group, that, of course, is a massive PR victory for Moscow, yes, which has said all along, nothing to do with us. This was an act of international sabotage, terrorism even. You know, these were 4 big explosions. The conclusion, I think, of most Western intelligence agencies is that it was deliberate, it wasn't an accident, and that it would have had to have been state-sponsored in order for the sophistication of this, because this was done very effectively. There were 2 pipelines, Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2, 4 explosions, rendering both of them inoperable.
And presumably they're not easily accessible. The location involved presumably would require quite a lot of effort to get.
Well, you'd have to know what you were doing. Yeah. So,
bro, Ukrainians are getting the Kurd treatment right now from the West, and it's kind of wild. Like, they're just getting thrown under the bus so hard, dude.
So, the German report talks of a yacht that has been discovered with traces of explosives found on the table inside the yacht. And they think that there was a captain, 2 divers, a medic, 2 assistant divers. But it's still
a very professional and organised operation if these reports are accurate.
Yes, I mean, it was certainly effective.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, by then, Germany wasn't actually importing Russian gas in the way that it was before. So, but nevertheless, you know, this was a Russian-built pipeline with German help, a huge strategic pipeline, and it has rendered it inoperable, so that at no time in the near future will Germany be able to import the sort of volume of Russian energy. You know, let's just imagine the war finishes tomorrow, there's suddenly a benign president in the Kremlin, and we're all friends with Russia again. That pipeline still isn't going to be operable for a very long time.
So just finally, in effect, if whoever is responsible for this disrupted potentially the opportunity, at least, to bring down energy prices in the future, at least for a period, assuming the war came to an end.
Yes, I mean, look, we don't know what their motives were, but this is now the second of 2 recent events that have happened where there's been this sort of murky idea of possibility of a false flag operation. So the Germans have hinted that they're not ruling it out, that it could be a false flag operation. What does that mean? It means where you make it look like somebody else has done it, but actually you did it.
Yes.
So making it look as if Ukrainians
so you
were
would say
behind.
we're the victim.
Exactly. So we've also had this raid that was just inside Russia, close to the Ukrainian border, which was very strange, involving a group no one had heard of, the Russian, I forget what they called themselves, but anyhow, a group no one had heard of that carried out an attack and then withdrew. And that was very helpful for the Kremlin to say to its population, look, we're under attack from Ukraine. Yes. They're bad people.
I've also been speaking to...
That's awesome. Yeah, they did it. They had so much to gain. Yeah, I'm still of the opinion that Russia did it. Why? I don't know, because I just feel like, it's probably the case. Fuck it.
To our Berlin correspondent, Jenny Hill.
The main focus here in Germany is what's being published in the German press following a huge investigation by a national broadcaster and a national newspaper, which focus again on the yacht that Frank was talking about there, apparently rented out by a Polish company, reportedly owned by 2 Ukrainians. Now, we've just had it confirmed, actually, just as you came on air, from the German federal prosecutor that in January the investigators here actually searched that yacht on suspicion that it might have carried explosives to the site. Frank, I think, told you about some of the people on board who were travelling, it's believed, on fake passports, so we don't know their nationalities. There is this potential link to Ukraine in that the company which initially rented out this yacht is said to have been ultimately owned by a couple of Ukrainians. Within some of those reports too, there is the suggestion that a Western intelligence agency sent a tip-off to its European partners saying that a pro-Ukrainian group may have been involved, but those are the only potential links at this stage. And certainly most of the senior politicians here this morning are publicly saying we need to be very careful about this. Understandably, we need to wait until investigations have concluded. And indeed, the federal prosecutor has said they won't be giving out any further details about what, if anything, they found during their investigations.
Jenny Hill. I spoke to the foreign policy specialist Jessica Berlin, who's in Germany, and asked about the explosion in September and whether it had made any difference to German gas supplies.
Nord Stream 1 had already been closed from August.
America's lost ally. How Gaddafi went from foe to ally. Exclusive. CIA files prove America helped Saddam as he gassed Iran. Anti-Soviet warrior puts his army on the road to peace. Manuel Noriega and the fragility of America's alliances. Manuel Noriega from U.S. friend to foe. No. This won't happen. This won't happen. He's white. And also, like, these are more covert. These are more covert forms. Like, this is like clandestine operations oftentimes and more covert forms of support with like some light padding. Okay? Whereas like this is overt. This is like the state uniformly supporting unconditional and uncritical support to the nation state of Ukraine. It is still funny though. Also, I don't think Zelensky would turn against the United States. That's the other thing. Like, I think the United States will throw him under the bus. But let's be real. He knows he needs U.S. support no matter what. Like, he has, I don't know if he's anywhere else he could turn to, especially because he is replaceable. They welcome Zelensky at fucking Congress. Almost on some Israel shit. I don't think the U.S. will be turning on him at all soon. Yeah. Olaf Scholz, our prime minister in Germany, had to explain today that Germany is no satellite state to the U.S. Yeah, but it kind of is, though. I mean, look, it's very unfavorable politically internally. Okay? Zell Disney. It's very unfavorable because this is an opportunity for the opposing German parties to and the opposing Germans to just like weaponize endlessly, and for kind of good reason too. They are under the auspices. They're under the legitimate control of Western interests, United States interests. But even if they are fucking horrifying monsters, the ones that are like opposing the current German government, usually it's like AfD and that sort of like psychotic right-wing and unconditional support to Russia, folks. But ultimately, I don't think that leaders. Ultimately, I don't think that the actual leaders are going to do anything. Like, I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna be like, all right, we're rescinding our support from Ukraine because what happened, that what Ukraine did was unjustifiable to the pipelines that like genuinely, legitimately harm the German population, makes energy prices incredibly, unfathomably high, that sort of thing. Like, I don't think they're gonna fucking turn around and actually do anything about it. So, this will probably hurt the chances of the current administration, get them to be seen in an unfavorable light. But yeah.
August of 2022. So it was not in active operation at the time. The Russians had already closed it off as part of their energy blackmail game last year. And so the timing of the explosion also, let's say, for the Ukrainians, the risk involved to undertake such a complex operation abroad in the midst of the war, at the risk of also angering allies, when actually Russia's gas supplies to Europe already had been drastically reduced and indeed turned off by Russia itself.
Jessica Berlin.
New text had been released as part of
Tucker Carlson said he hates Trump passionately in text according to the legal filings. Wait, what? I didn't see this. This is fucking fire. But yeah. It's funny how you say German AfD is right wing here in Germany. They're just Nazis. It's kind of nice that you equal these two parties. Just take the CDU with into the boat and you're 100% right. Yeah, I mean, yes. The German nationalist, the German National Socialist Party was also right wing and openly anti-communist, anti-trade unionist. So yeah, that's when I say German right wing, there's a lot more weight to it. Oh shit. I gotta do something. Gotta do something drive related. Anyway, listen. This part is all settled matters, right? I think we all understand what happened here. I think we get what happened here. On. Fuck. I wish there was a way to select all easily on Google Drive. Sorry, I'm trying to manage files that I sent over to Ostenox for the vlog. For the no, there's no Google Drive is so weird. Like I shared access to the folder, but for some reason you can't see any of the videos inside of the folder. And I assume that's because I guess like just sharing access to a folder alone does not change permissions. You have to like click on each individual video and Add shortcut to the drive. What? Okay, it worked. All right, we're good. All right. Anyway.